your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
We will have some tournament basketball on the air for you tonight. The CAA will feature Delaware and UC Wilmington. We'll have that game for you at 5:45 on 100.7 The Score. And then we'll also have for you today the West Coast Conference Final. The winner of this game will also punch a ticket. Gonzaga, unranked Gonzaga, taking on 19th ranked St. Mary's in the final. And that game will be at 7:45 tonight, with the winner advancing. I would imagine this is I haven't looked at the bracketology for Gonzaga, so I can't sit here and say, well, they're probably going to get in. They're 24-8. I mean, they're a big name. But it's always good if you can punch your own ticket, especially in conferences like that. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to play well going in. So.
Well, and then you don't necessarily want to kind of
worry,
put yourself at the whim of the NCAA selection committee. Is that something you aspire to be on at some point in time? Like if you ever became an administrator, because I think you'd probably be a good college administrator. You have a good level head. Like you could do this job.
What am I administrating?
That's a good question. I don't know. You just be in charge of people, things, stuff, organizing,
I mean, he's in charge of people here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He does a good job here.
I think that when my days of radio are done, I think that I will have had enough being in charge of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll be on to other things.
Hey, Jamie, if we were to ask you right now, are you done being in charge of people? Have you done enough of being in charge of people and ready to not be in charge of people?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Like if you could just be in charge of a tree, that would be perfect for you, right?
If I could just worry about myself and not others, yeah, that'd be great.
Jerry Palm has Gonzaga as a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, so they're probably pretty solid with their record and name and who they played and all that kind of stuff. He has Texas Tech as a 3 seed in the Denver regional. I sure hope. Do you have a preference of where you'd like to see Texas Tech go? Because there's a part of me that really wants them to go to Wichita so that as many people as possible from here can go. I think Denver.
Or so you can say doodah a whole bunch next week.
No, I don't. Hadn't really even given that any thought, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
No, I really hadn't. I really hadn't. I really hadn't given it any thought at all. You just put that in my head, but I mean, I hadn't.
Oh, yeah.
I truly had not thought about that at all.
Survey says.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you, I hadn't thought about it. I was really more thinking about people that wanted to go to the first and second
the question that you asked me, I want it to be as close as possible so our fan base can get there.
Yeah. I mean, I just think going to Wichita is an easier drive than going to Denver. I'm sure.
I bet Denver's way prettier.
Denver is way prettier. There's no question.
The drive is way better.
Well, I mean, the drive's easier going to Wichita. You go to Oklahoma City, turn right. Excuse me, go to Amarillo, turn right. Go to Oklahoma City, turn left.
Drive being prettier to look.
Oh yeah. And it's not even close. Yeah, it's not even close.
And the majority of the fans that are going are probably going to fly, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not, though.
I talked to a buddy of mine yesterday, and he was like thinking that if it was Denver, that they were going to drive just because of flights and easy. Plus, it's you kind of control your own destiny.
Yeah, that's true.
You can road trip with them?
I haven't been invited.
You haven't been invited?
No.
That's a bad thing.
I think about all he can.
So he brought it up to you, but didn't invite you.
Well, he's taken his wife and his daughter. I mean, and there's not. I don't think there's enough oxygen in the car for me. Okay.
How?
How what?
Nope. That's a shot that's not worth taking.
Okay. I mean, that's just. I mean, it's just. Besides, I mean,
Chuck's smart enough to know he's taking his family. That's
right. It's not
a time to offer yourself.
No. Plus, the lucky lady would want to. She would want to go if we're going to do something like that. She would want to participate in going to something like that. Tech would be the 3 seed playing the 14 seed. NC Wilmington, and then the 6 seed Missouri versus the 11 seed VCU, according to Jerry Palm. It's better if you're the 2 seed because you get a little bit weaker opponent there in the second round. But you're going to have to play people at some point in time. Marquis says this: you can get to Colorado in 5 to 6 hours. I don't think you can get from Lubbock to Denver in 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah, you can get to Colorado in 5 to 6 hours, but you can't get to Denver.
No.
Well, is Chuck driving? Yeah. I mean, if Chuck is driving, there's a chance.
I think you can get to Pueblo in 6 hours, maybe 6.5. I can't remember.
8 hours and 9 minutes to Denver.
I was going to say, I think Denver's 8 hours.
Yeah. So it's about and I would tell you it's about the same distance to Wichita. Maybe, it's going to be pretty close to that. 7 hours and 23 minutes. So half an hour or so. Yeah, that's
Doesn't
nothing.
Seem like a big difference.
No,
to me.
it's not. It's just a little bit. I just think it's a little bit easier drive to go to Wichita than go to.
How many times have you driven to Denver?
A couple. No.
What's difficult about the drive?
Well, it's just I think there's more traffic. That's my perception.
I would wholeheartedly disagree.
Okay, all right. You've driven there a million
I've never
times.
driven to Wichita Falls. I've driven to Oklahoma City. I've driven to Denver a bunch, and for the most part, you're out in the middle of nowhere forever, and it's awesome.
Yeah. This is fake news. Wichita is not my favorite city in Kansas. It's fake news.
That's very fake.
It is very fake. Very fake. With regard to basketball, we get this. This conference really rebounded from what I thought it was going to be. Still a very viable conference across the board. Yeah, but I think going in, we thought it was the best conference in college basketball, and this year,
I still think it's very good.
Yeah.
I still think it's very good. I just don't think it's the best this season.
Yeah, this season.
Mm-hmm. And this season, it has been in other years.
The question now is how many teams is the SEC going to get in to the tournament? 14, 15? It seems like a crazy number. It seems like Arkansas just should be eliminated because it feels like that they've not had they've had an up and down year, and they're below 500 in their league. I think if you're below 500 in your league, it makes it really hard to put a bunch of those teams in.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Today is March 11th. Man, it's flying by. 2025. Here's Jeff McGuire with this day in sports history.
I mean, we're not even halfway through the month yet, Chuck.
I know, but
it's just days before that happens.
I know, it just feels like it's already March 11th.
Well, it is already March 11th. It didn't feel like it. It is. We're going to start in 1901. Cincinnati Enquirer reports that the Baltimore manager John McGraw signed Cherokee Indian Tacoma, who was actually, really, black second baseman Charlie Grant. So maybe if someone sends you the trivia question of who the first black player was in Major League Baseball, it wasn't Jackie Robinson. Might have been Charlie Grant in 1901.
Okay.
1967, the 14th ACC men's basketball tournament took place. North Carolina beats Duke 82-73. In 84, in the 31st ACC men's basketball tournament, Maryland beats Duke 74-62. 2020. NBA suspends the 2019-2020 season until further notice after Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert tests positive for COVID-19. After touching every microphone cover and everything else in that press conference room.
That was crazy.
It was crazy, and that was the beginning of the shutdown of the world, wasn't it?
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
And in 2022, Davion Warren and Kevin O'Banner scored 11 points apiece to lead third-seeded Red Raiders over Oklahoma 56-55 to move on to the Big 12 championship game versus Kansas. It is Oatmeal Nut Waffle Day. That's a lot of words for a waffle.
I'm out on the waffle.
Seems like a little much.
I'm out on that kind of waffle.
I mean, I would have it with a little bit butter and syrup. Don't get me wrong. I would not turn a free waffle away. But that's an awful lot of work for a waffle. Happy birthday to Anthony Davis, who's 32. Johnny Knoxville, 54. Terrence Howard, 56. Becky Hammond, 48. Greg Olson, 40. And Sam Donaldson is 91. And on this day, in 1989, a show that started every episode with viewer discretion is advised, followed by a Jamaican reggae song that would be so associated with the show that every parody of said show includes it.
Cops.
It's followed by an announcer saying this is filmed on location with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Of course.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
I am talking about Cops.
Did you like that show?
I mean, I saw it on occasion, but it wasn't something I ever searched out.
The show aired over 1,000 episodes and filmed in 140 U.S. cities, including the great city of Lubbock, as well as international locations, including London and Hong Kong. Debuted today in 1989.
Okay.
And that is This Day in Sports History.
That is This Day in Sports History. I liked when they had. Do you remember the show, the Live Police show, where they had this,
yeah.
I don't think that was the name of it. But they would show dispatchers and police, and it was all live.
Okay.
And they would go and arrest the criminals in Florida or the California or wherever.
Like right now.
Right now. Like right now.
And like they check in on an arrest, and it was still going on during the entire show. Like it was started at the beginning, and they'd see the guy get pulled over, and then they'd cut to somebody else, and they go back to that one from the beginning and see where it was updating. God, what was that called? I can see the guy hosting it.
Live PD.
There we go.
Thank you from the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Again, a bullfighter punched the button first. There were two. There was one other text from the Yates Flooring Center chat line.
Cops was definitely a guilty pleasure to watch. Like I wouldn't say I would watch it like every time it was on, but every time I saw it on, I think I was watching Cops. Yeah, at least for that episode.
Let's see. They did Lubbock, and we knew someone who was on it. Hint: it wasn't law enforcement. Oh, okay.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. Speaking of those old ACC tournaments, you guys are too young to remember, you're too young to remember this. But before the Dean Dome was built, and they're thinking about building another arena there in Chapel Hill. Their old arena, and I forget what the name of the gym was, but they had the scoreboard, but the scoreboard didn't hang from the center. But then they also, so that the players could see what the score was, they had like a flip chart scoreboard at the end of the court. And so somebody would manually flip over the cards to be able to tell you what the score was. I always thought that was kind of cool, but it's
kind of old school.
Oh well, it was
junior high-ish.
Oh yeah, no question. But I mean, it was what they had, back in the day. It was what they were able to do. Let's see, 6:50 this morning here on the morning drive. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to doublet973.com for that, or the mobile app. And this may be a better question with more time, but I'll just give you the question here, because this came up yesterday a little bit, and we never really got to this specific question. Jamie, why did we gut baseball for women's softball? The NIL math doesn't make sense. Which is real. It's not true.
Yeah, that's not true. The women's softball, it had a private donor that wanted the softball team to be great, and so they didn't take money away from baseball or anywhere else. It wasn't money that was, with the football program or the basketball program or baseball program. This was money that was in the pocket of a private donor, and they said, we want softball to be great, so we're going to go get a bunch of players and a coach. And sounds like they were, I believe, heavily involved in the coach part too. Okay. I didn't really initially know that, but and the players and all the above. So it's not money that was taken from one side, one team,
right,
and put to another team. This was money that was either going to be in the pocket of the bank account of the donor, or it was going to be used for Tech softball.
Yeah.
So and obviously that private donor has every right to do whatever they want to do with their money. It wasn't as if Texas Tech was like, hey, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? No, they said, we want to do this.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech was like, okay, you want to make the softball program great? You go make the softball program great. We'll be happy to let you do that.
Yeah. Otherwise, they were probably going to have to pay taxes. It was either going to go to a donation somewhere or it was going to go to the federal government.
Yeah. So, I mean, the two really don't have anything to do with each other at all.
Not hand in hand.
Yeah.
I get this from
there are other things that have gone on campus that have affected, how much money goes to baseball or whatever, but the softball thing is not one of them.
Yeah, it's not related to that. I get this from my line. Live PD has now been rebranded as OP Live on Reels Network.
Reels?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Reels.
I'm not either.
Yeah, but at any rate,
I'm sure it's great.
I'm sure it's great. All right, we'll have college hoops tonight. We'll have the CAA championship, the West Coast Conference championship on 100.7 The Score, and sandwiched in between that, we'll have Liberty baseball today as they take on Snyder. That'll be at 7 on 93.1 Yes FM. Okay. Tomorrow we'll have the Patriot League Championship here on Double T 97.3, and then lots of Big Ten coverage, and then the Big 12 as well on Thursday and Friday, and hopefully that continues into Saturday as far as the Red Raiders are concerned. All right.
I like that plan.
Somebody says, thank you, Jamie, with a softball emoji there. So you get a little little tidbit there for correcting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to blame softball.
No,
and no reason to blame the donor if they have a passion for our softball program, and apparently that's the wife of the donor was a former player, then they absolutely have the right to go do what they can to make the softball program.
Do what it is, yeah. Right.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. The Morning Drive on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com.
7:15 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Good morning. Jamie Lent, Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Jamie will have a question for all of us at 7:30. Here's a question for you, Jamie.
Okay.
From the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Jamie, do you have concerns the baseball program's best days are behind us? We seem to be falling into irrelevance and apathy. That seems like we're jumping off the cliff pretty quick, but I mean, I understand. Team's 3-11 and coming off a year where you didn't make the tournament, so it's not like there's not cause for concern.
So what was the very first question there?
The very first question is, do you have concerns the baseball program's best days are behind us?
Okay, so stop right there. What have I been saying for 2 years?
That you are concerned about the baseball program's future.
Unless you dedicate the funds to the sport like others are, like you were doing to other sports at Texas Tech, you weren't going to be able to compete like you were in the past.
And would you say that we're starting to, that it's not necessarily the start of it, but it's really getting exposed? What you've been talking about the last couple of years?
Okay, so having said what I just said, I feel like this year's baseball team is way better than 3-11. I don't think they're void of talent. I don't think they're a bad baseball team. I think they're finding ways to beat themselves. I think they're having a bad inning here or there that's costing them big time. I don't think it's a bad baseball team. I think it's a baseball team playing badly.
Okay.
Which in some ways is more frustrating. Because it's not, oh, woe is me, we don't have the talent. I mean, you could look at our roster and look at some of the size of the guys compared to when you're facing off against the Longhorns. Okay, it's a difference. I mean, there's even a little bit of that going on when you're facing like Grand Canyon this past weekend. Okay, who's got Jerry Colangelo money. Okay, but this team is more talented than they've played so far. Okay, and so what I'm saying is the reason I feel like it's more frustrating is it's not because you're a terrible team. It's that you're beating yourself. You're finding ways to lose. Okay, so which means my expectations are I feel like you should be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting here crying about I mean, everybody wants to talk about the NIL thing. It's not a subject that I'm dying to get into or whatever, because I've told you for 2 years, unless you dedicate funds to that program, you're not going to be able to compete at the level you did in the past. Okay? It's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And you're not. Okay? You're not. And so, but I like this team. I think this team is way more talented than what they're showing so far. Again, which says to me, they're not terrible. They're not bad players, but they're finding ways to beat themselves, which is really frustrating.
So the follow-up question to that, at least my follow-up question to that is, so how do you fix it in season? How do you get it turned around?
That's a great question. I would just tell you the same thing that Tim Tadlock has said the 50 times he's been asked the question. I mean, you stay the course, you try to play better. You keep practicing hard and you try to play better. Okay? Right now, he's trying to juggle. It's like you don't have that many two-way players. You got guys that can hit and you got guys that can field. And they're not the same guys. So you're trying to figure out on any given day, well, should we play an offensive lineup or should we play a defensive lineup? Like, for example, you didn't defend well on Saturday, so you went super defensive on Sunday. And what'd you do Sunday?
Didn't hit the ball.
Scored 2 runs.
Yeah.
You went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Okay? Your 8-9-1 in the lineup just didn't have a lot of power or a lot of punch to it. Okay? You're having to try to find ways where you can mix together guys that can play good defense, but also guys that can, present a threat at the plate. You just don't have that many two-way guys right now that are getting it done. And you need shortstop and second base and center field to be good defensively. You need them to. But right now, you're getting no offense from there. Hardly any offense from there. And so, I mean, what Coach Tadlock and the staff, they're trying to figure out is, okay, so how do we mix a little of offense with a little of defense? And then it feels like your pitching's turning, right? 3 of your last 4 starts have been really good starts. Mm-hmm. Okay, the one that wasn't, the guy got injured in the first inning.
Do we know what his status is going forward, or is it?
I have no clue.
Okay.
I wouldn't guess that it's great, just because having seen that situation before.
Right.
But I don't know. I do not know the answer to that, and that will not be a question that I ask. Okay. So I feel like there's enough pitching to. I mean, it's one guy. Okay. Last year it was 5 guys. Mm-hmm. You should be able to handle losing one guy. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not that he wasn't important or anything like that.
Sure. No, I get it.
Okay. But. It's like on one day your offense isn't there, on one day the pitching's not there, on a different day your defense. I mean, you're finding ways to beat yourself. You're not. Coach Tadlock talks about playing 9 good innings of baseball, and you're just not doing a lot of that. I mean, you did it on Wednesday. You could have won all 3 games this weekend. They were all 3 tight games that, 8th inning it could have gone either way. And all 3 times it went away from you. So I don't want to discredit Grand Canyon. They made the plays when they needed to. They're a veteran bunch. They're a good team. They got quality players. They do. If you sat them down with our guys and said, all right, go position for position, they probably have more starters than we do if you were competing against them. Right? That's just where you are. That's just where you are. I think this team is way better than 3-11. I'm really surprised that they are struggling like they are, and I'm hoping that Big 12 play is a positive thing. In that, first off, the schedule has been really tough. You've played really tough teams.
Sure.
Houston might be the worst team you've played this year.
Coming up.
Right? Coming up. I mean, and they're in Big 12. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a chance to kind of clear the slate. Hey, we're 0-0 in Big 12 play.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is this that kind of that time where you just...
I don't know. You got to play good baseball either way.
Yeah.
You got to quit beating yourself.
Just say, hey, listen, we can't worry about the last 14 games. We got to worry about the next...
One.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't get them all back overnight.
Yeah.
So
but, I mean, this is, again, even when Tech was playing in regionals and all that, I was saying you got to be all in on this program, or you're not going to be able to compete again, like you have been. Tim Tadlock did a great job winning with less at the beginning. Right? Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it was shock to everyone, I think, in 2014 when you made it to Omaha. Okay? It was shock. I mean, nobody saw that coming, right? They were below 500 the year before. Okay? It happened. And then you built a program around it, and now you see that build, it continued to build and going, in a positive direction. And you were one of the elites of college baseball. But as others decided to be all in and spend more money and build these amazing facilities, and now the NIL is a thing, spend so much money on these rosters, and you're not able to do it, it just doesn't add up. Yeah, I mean, it's plain and simple.
Yeah, it's simple. It is simple. It is simple when you.
But all that being said, I don't think this team should be 3-11. They are underperforming, in my opinion.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
All right, gentlemen. My question for you today revolves around Red Raider football. Okay, since we're getting started here. Who is the returning player that is not been given as much talk or love as you feel like should be? Like, who are we not saying, it's going to be great to have him back? Who's getting overlooked?
Who is getting overlooked?
I don't know where this falls, because we're not talking about him enough. But I also don't think that anybody is underestimating his value for the team, and I'd go Jacob Rodriguez. Key position for you, great player, does all the things you need him to do, but he's never brought up.
Really?
I mean, when we're talking about...
I think he's brought up quite a bit.
He's our best defensive player.
Right, but it's not like we spend every day going, he's going to be leading our defense, and it's... We're focusing on the defensive backs. We're focusing on the defensive line. We're talking about injuries to the quarterback room, and all. We're not also pointing out that you've got your best defensive player.
There is no player on this team that I'm more confident in than Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And that goes to my point that we're not talking about him because of our confidence in him. He's the taken care of factor.
Okay, you are totally allowed to have that as your opinion. Okay, and that be your answer. I think that's crazy talk because I think Jacob Rodriguez gets a lot of respect.
I agree. I agree with Jamie on that. I mean, yeah, you're allowed to have your opinion. All right, so just kind of scrolling through the roster. Here's what about Mo Horn?
That's a good answer.
He's going to be. He's going to be a big factor for you this next year, and a big leader for you. He was a redshirt freshman in 23. I don't have his. Let me see if I can get his numbers here. I don't have his specific numbers here. I don't have any.
Mo Horn last year, 56 total tackles.
Okay, thank you. But anyway,
3 interceptions, 3 pass breakups.
Anyway, he's a guy that I feel like that doesn't get a whole lot of extra love, maybe.
Okay.
So I'll stick with him.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with the guy that I think plays at Jacob Rodriguez's shadow. and Ben Roberts.
Okay.
I mean, he's your second leading tackler from a year ago. I feel like he's a really good player as well. He's just not been as good as Jacob Rodriguez. So I think I lean towards him. I think Mo Horton's a really good answer, Chuck. I don't know. We've brought in so many defensive backs where he's gonna stand, right? I assume he's still gonna be a starter, but you just never know. And if he's not, I guess that means that they brought in somebody that's so good that jumped in front of him. That's a positive thing. But I don't know why. It's funny. All three of us went to the defensive side of the ball.
Well, because offense is I feel like that we've spent a lot of time talking about the offense too.
I think Charles Esther the third is another guy that I would have thought about to answer here. I think he has the potential to still be to be a starter for the Red Raiders, so maybe he's a guy. AJ McCarty, maybe another guy. He's kind of got a nose for the ball. If you had to pick an offensive guy, who would you go with?
I mean, would you look at a guy like John Carlos Milner, or do we feel like that we've talked about him enough too?
I have high hopes for him, but I mean, somebody on the chat line mentioned this when I was talking about him last week, and I think they're absolutely right. He may ultimately not end up being the starter. The guy that they bring in is that they've brought in, and Terrence Carter may be the guy. And so I don't know. I like the thought of John Carlos, who split times last couple of seasons, really getting his chance to do his thing and be the guy this year, but maybe that's not the case. It's funny, the guy that popped to my mind on offense is the guy that we have already talked about today in Coy Aiken.
Okay.
I think that Caleb Douglas is getting a lot of love, and Reggie Virgil, who's a newcomer who's coming in. I feel like we've talked about him a lot, but...
And do you feel like Cam Dickey gets a lot of play too?
I feel like he's probably third on the depth chart.
Okay, that's probably fair.
So I feel like that's probably why he's not getting much love.
Okay.
I bet Jeff's thinking offensive lineman, aren't you? I feel like you're an offensive lineman guy.
As a group, yes. As an individual, the problem with the offensive line, and it's not a sexy position, but it's a very important position.
Absolutely.
It's the five-finger fist that swings the right hook. That if you don't have the five fingers grasped correctly, you're going to be slapping somebody, and that doesn't hurt as much as the right hook does. And if they're not doing what they need to do together, if you've got a pinky that's hurt, that shows immediately, and that's kind of where I feel like the offensive line. I am more focused on improvement in the offensive line, but what each individual guy on that line needs to do is beyond my availability.
So what I heard there is you don't have a specific guy.
Yeah, but
okay.
well, and it's not just one, because it's any one of them. All five of them need to be better.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know, is Duda Banks back this year? He was a difference maker for sure. Yeah, but I'm not sure with all the guys that you brought in what the snap count's going to be for him.
Yeah, I think he falls behind a couple of those newcomers, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lee Hunter and Skylar Gill-Howard, those guys are expected to be the starters.
Yeah. And I'm not sure this is totally fair for him, but I mean, because he was a freshman, but he did have challenges. This person says Macho Stevenson just being awful made me appreciate Horn. I thought Roberts took a big step back last year, and John Curry was just as effective, if not better, in pass coverage.
Curry's another guy that I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Somebody asked this: is there?
Viva73 agreed with you, Jeff. He said that he never hears Rodriguez's name.
Yeah.
And I just have such a high level of respect for that guy. So,
and that might be where I'm focused on that answer. It's that we have such a high respect for him that we don't talk about him enough. If that makes sense. Like, he deserves more credit more often than we give it to him.
Somebody else asked, is there a defensive player that was talked about more than Rodriguez this season?
All the bad ones.
Okay.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
on the morning drive, hour 3 of 3 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. It's great to have you with us today on the morning drive. We come to you from the First United Bank studio. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to WT973.com for that of the mobile app. The Visual Edge IT hotline is open too at 806-771-0973. I don't know if you saw this article or not, and I'm not going to go through it. I just am going to encourage people to read it if they have the time and they have the subscription. But I thought it was a really insightful article last week. I'd heard about it and I hadn't had a chance to look at it until last night. But it's in The Athletic and it's on Texas Tech basketball, and it talks about Coach Grant McCasland and his relationship with his top assistant, Jeff Linder. And basically, talks about how in charge Coach Linder is of the offense and how much Coach McCasland trusts him with the offense and to run things to the point that during his time when Linder wasn't with him, he would go into halftime and his games would be on TV, and he would check his phone for messages from Linder who would give him suggestions for his offense at the half. Okay. The two were together at Midland. They won a junior college national championship there together. But I thought this was interesting. Just a couple of quotes here, and then we'll move on. Linder said, "He's the only guy that I would have left a head coaching job with 3 years left on a contract at Wyoming in the Mountain West for. In this profession, you have so few just truly close friends." McCasland said about Jeff Linder, he talked about his level of trust for him. And he said, "There's nobody I trust more over my past 20 years than him. We started our journey together. It's not possible if you don't have this depth of relationship. But his impact, it can't be understated how important it is." Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's a good article. It kind of gives you a little peek behind the curtain, a little bit about Texas Tech basketball and what's been going on this year and how he's had an impact and what the impact is on the Red Raider basketball program. And so if you have a chance and you have that subscription, I probably can get some one-time stuff on that just from time to time. But anyway, it's a good read and kind of gives you maybe a little bit more insight on this team. And as we head into the Big 12 tournament this week for Texas Tech and then on to the NCAA tournament next week, because we're getting to that point where it's elimination weekend. For some teams, today could be an elimination. They lose in the Big 12 tournament and their season's done. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then with other teams, they might make a little bit of a run and then they sit on the bubble on Sunday and wait for their name to be announced. And so for others, they're like, okay, they're playing for seeding. Are you playing for a 3 seed? Are you playing for a 2 seed? If you go, I don't think you can go backwards, Jamie. I think
I wouldn't think so. Even if you lost
on Thursday, yeah.
Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that.
Be really surprised.
Yeah, I think it's. I think you could go one and done and still. Now you might be the 4th 3 seed, so it might affect where you go and what your first round game is against, or the level of competition, the level of that seed that you're going to face. But at any rate, winning is always better, right, than losing. So that goes without saying. Further that you can go, the better off that you'll be and that your lie will be. And you're trying to get your team set up and see where we can go.
Trying to come up with something to argue against your, not really argue against, but to see if your theory is legit, that winning is always better than losing. The only time it's better to lose is weight, but you don't win weight. Mm-hmm. right?
You earn it because you eat too much or you eat the wrong stuff.
I can't think of a time where losing is better than winning.
Hey, you're probably, no, you're right about that. So I'm right about
Arguments with your wife.
Yeah.
Arguments with your wife. Because even when you win, you lose.
You could lose, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody says this Big 12
I think you win when you don't
have the argument.
Well, yes, but you don't crown a champion at the end of it.
Jamie, I have never done that. I have never.
It's not winning or losing, it's ending that's important in those situations.
Yeah. You're probably right about that. Somebody says this, I'm curious to see what happens if Cincinnati wins 2 games. They're 7-13. How about be curious to see if TCU wins 2 games or K-State wins 2 games or Utah wins 2 games? I don't think Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, UCF, Arizona State, or Colorado have a chance to make the NCAA tournament unless they win the Big 12 tournament.
I think I'm probably with you.
You know? And the same thing goes with K-State. I mean, they're 9-11, 15-16 overall. They got to win 2 games. Yeah, they got to win 2 games just to be 500. You know, and TCU, if they lose a game, then they are 500 and they're 9-12. They ain't going anywhere. I think at this point in time, it's Houston, Tech, BYU, Arizona, that's 4, Iowa State 5, Kansas 6, Baylor 7, and West Virginia 8. That's it. Unless one of the other 8 wins the tournament. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Win by losing on The Biggest Loser and similar shows/contests.
You win by losing.
Yeah, on The Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
You win by losing.
Losing the most.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about, and you know that.
Yeah, but it's good for the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff also said you win by losing in his argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody says,
it's more you lose by winning. But yeah.
I've just been shocked to keep having Cincinnati on the bubble. Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet973.com.